you've got to get this right. You've been great all day with food, you've done your dedicated meals, you've been all the way good till 7, 8 p.m, 9 p.m, cravings hit, you're deep into a bowl of ice cream, deep into a bag of chips, in a way that's unplanned, unrestricted, in a way you feel guilty about it, and you feel like you've lost control and things are blown out. This is a familiar story, it's one I've been through, and it's something we've got to get right, or else the fat loss results will always be held hostage to this, not the other parts of your day. This can feel incredibly frustrating. You've been good the whole day, but just at the final step, the final meal, that's the thing that's just let you down. Any restriction you've done through the day hasn't been able to keep up with the blowout at night. Often people feel like they can't stop. They feel like they've got no willpower and they just don't see the end in sight. And it's often happened over and over again. I'm sure if you're watching this video and you can relate to this has not been a one-time thing. This is something a little bit closer to a habit at this stage. And here's the thing. Discipline isn't at the heart of this. It might have a small 5% factor, but there's things we can do to make this way easier, and discipline isn't going to be the number one thing that's going to get you through this time. So how does this happen? One of the first things can be just not enough fiber and protein earlier in the day. It leads to you feeling really, really far from being satiated at night, and then you're ready to eat because there's been nothing to hold you over. Sometimes you've had so few calories in the day that your body's just having the response it should. It's detecting it's in a caloric deficit. It's saying, oh no, we can't use that stored body fat, or we're getting depleted in our glycogen. We need to refill this. So it'll give you extra food signals, extra hunger signals, which can lead to the blowout. The first thing is drastically under-eating throughout the day. If you've been in a steep caloric deficit all day, or even just a day you haven't had enough fuel, forgetting even the caloric deficit even the last week, you'll have greater hunger signals. It might sound so basic, but if you are setting yourself up with such an extreme polarity that you've had so little amounts of calories throughout the day, that you will get a backlog at night. You'll have the thing where the body says, hey, we're not getting enough stored fuel in. We need to actually bring in some more because we don't want to be chipping into our precious body fat. I know that might feel like such an outdated measure when so many of us in this modern world might feel overweight or really struggling with our weight being too high. But these are the evolutionary processes that we still deal with. We're not that far away from the times where that was more relevant. Another thing along with under-eating is not having enough fiber and protein in the early parts of your day. So those kind of foods are more satiating compared to their counterparts. So if you can find foods that have a large amount of volume relative to the amount of calories, or even a bit more protein, a bit more fiber, these strategies will allow your stomach receptors to determine that you are fuller, irrespective of calories, which is a really relevant thing to do if you're in the game of caloric restriction or just trying to lose a bit of body fat. We need to know how to quieten that noise without just feeding it endless calories. Next thing is having dinner too early. If you are entering a scenario where you've come home from work or whatever it is and you've eaten dinner at 6 p.m. and you're gonna go to bed at 11 p.m., the satiating effects from that 6 p.m. dinner, and this can obviously vary based on like how large your meal is, how much fiber, protein, the stuff we just shared, might carry you until 8, 9, 9:30 even. But then you're still gonna have that window from whenever it is that the fullness effect of this meal has stopped to where bedtime is, where you're now gonna be hungry. So what you can do is just one of the easy solutions is move that dinner to a little bit closer to bedtime. Let's say now you're gonna have it at 8 p.m. and you go to bed at 10:30. The satiating effects of that 8 p.m. dinner will carry you all the way over the top to when you actually fall asleep. You'll be satiated still by the time you're hitting bed. Another thing you can do is have some more food planned for well after your dinner. So this could even be a simple thing of removing a meal from earlier in your day, let's say it's morning tea, that kind of thing, to before bed. You might say, hey, I don't want to eat before bed, but the truth is you are anyway, and you're eating a lot more than whatever that, like the morning tea style snack would have been. And all you've done is move food from some place that, I'm having it just cause, to where you actually want it and need it that matches your psychology and hunger. Next, and this is more relevant than people think, is it is the stage of the day often where they're not distracted by other things. They're not running around doing all the jobs, dealing with the business of life. They're now just sat on the couch. It's 9 p.m. Things are theoretically done for the most part. They've got all this spare time now to think about food. Oh, do I want this? Do I want that? In the way that, yeah, they could kind of feel throughout the day, but they're busy doing their errands, rushing the next thing, working hard, stressing about X, Y, Z. This is the time where you don't have that distraction. So we need to just understand that that's going to be part of how your brain's going to be at this time. So you'll have to use more willpower in those times of night than you would in other times of the night, because you'll be thinking about this stuff over and over a lot more repetitively than you would throughout the daytime. The thing that then ties into that is the whole stress/food exhaustion hits its most exhaustive part of the day. If you've made so many hard decisions and your willpower's been tested at multiple points of the day, you might be no, and screw it. And the screw it can be large and intense in a situation where we know you're already tired, right? That is another reason it can tend to blow out. So here's what to do instead. First thing is to address something that people often struggle to understand at first, but over time, and this is my experience coaching people, is start to really grapple with. That can be some good/bad news. And that is that your maintenance calories are probably a lot higher than you think, but also you're consuming a lot more calories than you think. So for example, if someone had gained, I don't know, let's say 200 calories worth of surplus within a week on average for a whole year, and has led to whatever amount of weight gain or weight loss, you can play around the scenarios, doesn't really matter. They would potentially think that, hey, my maintenance calories are around 1500 and I've been having 1700 calories each day. That's been my plus 200. Whereas when you get to the weeds of things, a lot of people will find, no, their maintenance calories a lot closer to, I don't know, same person, it's actually 2100, but you've been doing 2300. This might seem like a nothing burger, but the fact is, when you think your caloric maintenance is 1500, what you define as high calorie meals changes. Because 500 calories, for example, is 1/3 of your day versus 1/4. Suddenly, it seems like, oh, I better avoid that 500 calorie thing. It's taking up too much room. When the truth is, it's actually well placed within your day. And it's definitely not going to be the thing that sets you over the edge, and you're still going to have that wiggle room later. So first thing is understanding that. Now that we understand that we've got more caloric room to play with, we can just simply dedicate more of our overall calories towards later at night. Again, not the whole thing where you're ending up in this crazy, satiating, I'm going to go crazy bonkers thing at night, but enough that we can at least bias, and potentially bias somewhat aggressively towards dinner being larger, and even that after dinner snack, dessert, whatever it is. Just allowing your allocation towards that suddenly allows a situation of there's less overall friction. Rather than like working on willpower and motivation, all these things, you're simply working with your schedule, that whole brain fatigue, all that stuff. You're working with it rather than against it. So with that, with a dinner that's larger, plan it. Have it be extra calories, have it be higher volume potentially as well if you really need to be extra full to navigate the brain cravings. And with that after snack meal, plan it. I think it's one thing to say, oh, I'm gonna have some chips, I'm gonna have some of this and that. And you know how it is. You can have a kid's packet of chips and a large packet of chips, and you'll end up just matching whatever the size of the chips are. If it's this size, you'll finish it. That size, you'll finish it. Serving sizes are kind of a myth, right? So it's one of those things where you just want to have something that's pre-planned where you know what it's going to be. So if even on the weekend, you can just sit out your late night snacks or even just earlier in the day. The point being, not at that time. At that time of night, we've already established you probably got decision fatigued. You might be more likely to make impulsive decisions. You might be just feeling the sum effect of the stress of the day. Plan it earlier. So then along with just planning for more food later, again, biasing it to be a bit later so it covers you into the end game of when you're actually falling asleep and not allowing yourself to be hungry. But even just knowing yourself. Might sound like such a silly thing, but if you do know that you just want to be munching on something when you're watching a show, suddenly packing a jelly light or carrots or celery for something really low calorie, for example, just to keep your mouth busy in the same way a smoker might just want to hold a pen in place of a cigarette. That might be something you want to do, but just then make sure it's something that still matches your overall calories throughout the day, something that can just keep your hands and mouth busy without actually going into caloric destruction mode at night, which is something you probably experienced now too many times. Look, my years of coaching goes through plenty of examples where I have different approaches towards each person based on their circumstances. I've given you a couple. But here's the thing to understand. Look, my 10 plus years of coaching experience has allowed me to have different solutions to different people. These are just some of the variables, but here's what's really important to understand. Know during the day, should I have white rice versus brown rice? Or should I have this keto style breakfast? Or should I delay my breakfast from 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. or 11 a.m. is going to be the thing that's going to help you if you don't address this. This is so many people's limiting factor. You can screw around with all the other things. It doesn't matter. It's not the thing. It's not the thing that's stopping you getting in the way of results. Look, this can be painful. I've dealt with this a lot. I've helped a lot of people go through this. It can be painful, but the upside and the other side is huge. Like, a lot of people don't realize how much better they can feel, how much more in control they can be, how much more freedom they can actually have within the day if they get these things right. And suddenly the whole process doesn't become this food noise, annoying, stressful, I feel like I failed the night before process, and feels like a thing where they're developing momentum. If you want to find out how I do that, there will be a link in the description for how my coaching works. But in the meantime, let's try some of those strategies. See if we can identify the triggers, see if we can match all these things that lead to our binging towards our psychology, lifestyle, and all the rest. And you'll quickly see that you got this, because we've got to get this right.